Get your hands off that door. The courtroom echoed with the shout before the judge had even entered. 73-year-old Evelyn Brooks, an elderly black grandmother, froze in the courthouse doorway. She had one trembling hand on the courtroom door. The other clutched a worn family Bible against her chest. Before she could speak, 2 court security guards grabbed her arms. "You don't belong in this courtroom." One guard yanked the Bible from her hands. It crashed onto the marble floor. The loud thud echoed through the hallway. Everyone turned. Lawyers stopped walking. Witnesses froze. Families waiting for hearings stared in silence. Evelyn bent down to pick up her Bible. A guard shoved her backward. "I said don't touch it." She nearly lost her balance. A young woman in the hallway gasped. "Oh my God!" Another visitor immediately started recording with his phone. The guard pointed toward the courthouse exit. "You people always show up pretending to know somebody. This isn't a public shelter." Laughter came from a few people waiting nearby. Evelyn slowly straightened herself. Her voice barely rose above a whisper. "I'm only here because my grandson asked me to come." The second guard laughed. "Sure he did. You expect us to believe someone inside this courtroom invited you?" Without warning, he grabbed her purse. Everything spilled across the polished courthouse floor. Reading glasses, family photographs, prescription medicine, a small knitted scarf. Coins rolled in every direction. The hallway became painfully quiet. Evelyn dropped to her knees, trying to gather her belongings with shaking hands. Nobody moved to help. The guards simply watched. One of them smirked. "Hurry up, you're blocking the hallway." Inside the courtroom, members of the jury could hear the commotion through the open doors. Several jurors exchanged uneasy looks. One woman whispered, "What's happening out there?" Another juror stood slightly to look through the doorway. His face changed instantly. "Judge, I think you need to see this." Before the judge could respond, one of the guards grabbed Evelyn by the arm again. "That's enough. You're leaving." Then a loud voice came from inside the courtroom. "Stop." Every head turned, not toward the judge, not toward the attorneys, but toward the jury box. One juror had just stood up. Then another. Then another. Within seconds, all 12 jurors were standing. None of them sat back down. And what happened next, no one inside that courthouse had ever witnessed before. Every courtroom deputy looked toward the jury box. The courtroom had become unnaturally quiet. 12 jurors remained standing. Not one of them moved. Judge Rebecca Lawson slowly removed her reading glasses. She looked from the jury to the hallway, then back again. "What is the meaning of this?" Juror number 7, a middle-aged Army veteran named Michael Turner, spoke first. "Your Honor, we cannot pretend we didn't see what just happened." Another juror nodded. "They humiliated that woman before this trial even began." A third juror stood straighter. "If that's how people are treated outside this courtroom, how can anyone believe justice is being served inside it?" The courtroom spectators began whispering. Defense attorneys exchanged nervous glances. Even the prosecutor looked uncomfortable. Outside the courtroom, court guard Ethan Cole tightened his grip on Evelyn's arm. "Ignore them. You're leaving." Evelyn quietly shook her head. "My grandson asked me to be here. You've embarrassed him enough." The guard laughed. "Your grandson? He's probably sitting in a jail cell." A few people standing nearby chuckled. Evelyn lowered her eyes. She didn't defend herself. She simply whispered, "My grandson believes justice still exists." Those words reached the courtroom doorway. Juror number 3 heard every syllable. She looked directly at the judge. "Your Honor, I refuse to continue this trial until that woman is treated with dignity." One by one, every remaining juror agreed. "I agree." "So do I." "Me too." Within seconds, all 12 jurors had publicly refused to sit down. The courtroom clerk looked completely stunned. "I've never seen this happen." Judge Lawson slowly stood. Her expression was no longer one of annoyance. It was concern. She looked directly at the bailiff. "Bring the woman into my courtroom." Before the bailiff could move, court guard Ethan Cole stepped into the doorway. "Your Honor, this woman has no authorization to enter." The judge stared at him. "Who made that decision?" Cole hesitated. "I did." "And on what legal basis?" Silence. Cole glanced toward the other guard. Neither answered. The judge's voice became sharper. "Did she threaten anyone?" "No." "Did she disrupt the proceedings?" "No." "Did she violate any courthouse rule?" "No, Your Honor." The judge folded her hands. "Then why was she thrown to the floor?" Nobody answered. The entire courtroom watched in complete silence. Judge Lawson turned to the jury. "You've all witnessed this?" Juror number 7 answered immediately. "Every second." The judge nodded once. Then she looked at the guards. "Bring Mrs. Evelyn Brooks inside, and this court will determine exactly who should be standing trial today." A wave of whispers swept across the courtroom. The guards suddenly realized the attention was no longer on the defendant. It was on them. And that was only the beginning. Because at that exact moment, a senior courthouse administrator hurried into the courtroom carrying a sealed personnel file. He leaned toward the judge and whispered just one sentence. Her expression changed instantly. She slowly looked at Evelyn, as if she had just discovered who she really was. The courtroom remained silent. Judge Rebecca Lawson slowly opened the sealed personnel file. She read only the first page. Then she stopped. Her eyes lifted toward Evelyn Brooks. For the first time, the judge looked at the elderly grandmother with genuine respect. She quietly asked, "Mrs. Brooks, were you ever going to tell anyone?" Evelyn lowered her eyes. "There was nothing to tell. I only came to support my grandson." The judge closed the file. "But there is something everyone here deserves to know." Every person in the courtroom leaned forward. Even the guards who had humiliated Evelyn looked confused. Judge Lawson nodded toward the courthouse administrator. "Please place that document on the evidence screen." A large courtroom monitor lit up. An official photograph appeared. It showed a much younger Evelyn Brooks nearly 40 years earlier. She stood in front of the same courthouse, wearing a navy blue business suit, surrounded by dozens of newly sworn court employees. The words beneath the photograph read, "Chief Court Administrator Evelyn Brooks." The courtroom exploded with shocked whispers. "What? She worked here?" "No, it says Chief Administrator." Guard Ethan Cole stared at the screen. His face turned white. Judge Lawson spoke again. "Mrs. Evelyn Brooks didn't just work in this courthouse. She helped build the administrative system this courthouse still uses today." The silence became overwhelming. The judge continued. "For 28 years, she trained court clerks, protected juror procedures, modernized courthouse security, and helped thousands of families receive fair access to justice." Every juror looked toward Evelyn with growing admiration. Michael Turner slowly shook his head. "And they treated her like that?" Evelyn softly interrupted. "Please, this isn't about me. It's about my grandson." Judge Lawson looked directly at her. "No, today it's about both." Just then, the courtroom doors opened again. A young man wearing an orange inmate transport uniform entered with 2 deputy marshals. Handcuffs circled his wrists. His eyes searched the courtroom. The moment he saw Evelyn, he froze. "Grandma." Evelyn smiled through tears. "I'm here. Daniel Brooks. 26 years old. An African-American high school history teacher. No criminal record. No history of violence. Today was supposed to be the first day of his trial after being falsely accused of stealing thousands of dollars from the community education fund where he worked." He looked toward the guards. "They did this to you?" Evelyn quietly nodded. Daniel lowered his head. "I'm so sorry." Judge Lawson interrupted. "You have nothing to apologize for." She turned toward the prosecution. "Before this trial moves another inch, This court has a far more serious matter to address. The prosecutor looked confused. Your Honor? Judge Lawson pointed toward the security guards. I want every surveillance camera recording from this courthouse hallway, from the moment Mrs. Brooks entered the building. Guard Ethan Cole's heartbeat seemed to stop, because he suddenly remembered something. The hallway cameras recorded everything, and there was one moment he prayed nobody would ever see. Every eye turned toward the courtroom monitor. Judge Rebecca Lawson folded her hands. Play the hallway footage. The courtroom lights dimmed. The surveillance video filled the large screen. There was no sound, only crystal clear video. Everyone watched as Evelyn Brooks slowly entered the courthouse carrying her worn Bible. She smiled politely at the security checkpoint. Seconds later, guard Ethan Cole stepped directly into her path. The video showed something no one in the courtroom expected. Evelyn reached into her purse. Not to hide anything, but to remove an official courthouse visitor letter. The camera clearly captured Ethan pushing her hand away before she could even show it. Gasps spread across the courtroom. The footage continued. It showed Evelyn bending down to pick up her fallen Bible. Then, without any provocation, Ethan deliberately kicked the Bible several feet across the marble floor. The courtroom erupted. Oh my God, you've got to be kidding. Several spectators covered their mouths. Juror number 5 looked away in disbelief. Judge Lawson's face hardened. But the footage wasn't finished. The next clip appeared from another security camera. This angle showed Ethan opening Evelyn's purse himself, then turning it upside down. Everything spilled onto the courthouse floor. Medicine, photographs, coins, reading glasses. The video proved Evelyn never dropped her belongings. The guards did. Silence, heavy, painful silence. Judge Lawson slowly looked toward Ethan. Do you deny what we've all just witnessed? His mouth opened. Nothing came out. The second guard finally whispered, we thought. Judge Lawson interrupted sharply. No, you assumed. The prosecutor quietly closed his case file. Even he looked ashamed. Then the courtroom doors opened again. A woman in a gray business suit hurried inside carrying a tablet. She whispered something into the prosecutor's ear. His eyes widened. Your Honor, we've just received additional evidence. The judge nodded. Proceed. The prosecutor connected the tablet to the courtroom monitor. A new video appeared. It wasn't from the courthouse. It was from the Community Education Center where Daniel Brooks worked. The date matched the day of the alleged theft. Every person leaned forward. The footage showed Daniel staying late after work, then locking the office, then leaving alone. No money was taken. No suspicious behavior. Nothing. The prosecutor slowly exhaled. Our timeline was wrong. The defense attorney immediately stood. Your Honor, if this footage is authentic, the state's entire case collapses. The prosecutor nodded. It gets worse. He clicked another file. Bank records, financial transfers, security logs, employee access reports. Everything pointed toward one person, not Daniel. A senior finance manager named Richard Sloan. The same man who reported Daniel to investigators 6 months earlier. The courtroom exploded into whispers. Daniel stared at the screen. He couldn't believe what he was seeing. His voice cracked. So, I told the truth. Judge Lawson looked directly at him. Yes, you did. Then she slowly turned toward the jury. You've now witnessed 2 innocent people being judged before the facts. The first was Mrs. Evelyn Brooks. The second was her grandson. The jurors looked at one another. Juror Michael Turner slowly stood again. Then another juror stood. Within seconds, all 12 jurors were standing once more. This time, not in protest, but in respect. And what happened next would become the most unforgettable moment in that courthouse's history. No one in the courtroom spoke. The silence felt heavier than any verdict. Judge Rebecca Lawson slowly rose from the bench. She looked first at Daniel, then at Evelyn. Finally, she looked directly at the 12 jurors. You have witnessed something today that every court in this country must remember. Justice does not begin when a trial starts. It begins with how we treat people before they ever step into this room. The courtroom remained completely still. Then something extraordinary happened. Juror number 7 quietly stepped out of the jury box. No one stopped him. One by one, the other 11 jurors followed. Instead of leaving the courtroom, they walked toward Evelyn Brooks. The elderly grandmother looked confused. "What are you doing?" Michael Turner smiled warmly. "We stood because we refused to ignore injustice." He extended his hand. "Now we'd like to thank you." Evelyn hesitated. Then she accepted his hand. The courtroom burst into applause. Not polite applause. A powerful standing ovation. Lawyers stood. Court clerks stood. Deputy marshals stood. Even several police officers removed their hats. Daniel watched with tears in his eyes. For the first time in months, he smiled. Judge Lawson waited until the applause faded. She turned toward the prosecutor. The state's position? The prosecutor stood. After a long pause, he closed the case file. The state respectfully moves to dismiss every charge against Daniel Brooks. The courtroom erupted again. Judge Lawson signed the dismissal order. With one strike of the gavel, this case is dismissed with prejudice. Daniel's handcuffs were immediately removed. He looked down at his free hands, then across the courtroom at his grandmother. Without saying a word, he walked to her. She opened her arms. The two embraced tightly as tears rolled down both of their faces. Many people in the gallery wiped away tears of their own. But Judge Lawson wasn't finished. She looked toward guard Ethan Cole and his partner. "You abused the authority entrusted to you. You humiliated an innocent woman. You disrespected this courthouse. And you violated everything justice is supposed to represent." She nodded toward the chief marshal, standing near the doors. "Effective immediately. Both officers are suspended pending criminal and administrative investigations." The courtroom fell silent once more. The two guards slowly removed their badges. Neither could look Evelyn in the eyes. As they were escorted from the courtroom, the same hallway where Evelyn had been humiliated only an hour earlier was now lined with courthouse employees silently watching them leave. No one laughed. No one celebrated. Justice didn't need revenge. It only needed the truth. Outside the courthouse, reporters waited for Daniel and Evelyn. Microphones were raised. Cameras flashed. One reporter asked, "Mrs. Brooks, after everything that happened today, do you have anything you'd like to say?" Evelyn smiled softly. She looked at her grandson. Then back at the cameras. When people stop seeing someone's dignity, they stop seeing justice. But the truth has a way of finding its own voice. She gently held Daniel's hand. And today, it finally did. As they walked down the courthouse steps together, every person standing outside quietly moved aside to make room for them. Not because they were famous, not because they were powerful, but because they had earned something far greater. Respect. If this story reminded you that every person deserves dignity before judgment, comment justice below. Subscribe to Tale Fame for more powerful stories where truth, courage, and character always have the final word.